No one would have believed such a thing, but we are all here, and I'm going to just go and calm them down and make sure that Gav can come back in. And in the
Tie them
meantime,
up.
Rabbi Aron, I'm going to let you just pass it on to you for a second. I'm coming back in 1 second. So come back in 1 second.
Oh yeah, 1 second, sure. They're going to tie you up. All right, it's great to see you all, and let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about Tisha B'Av. First of all, just a little bit of a historical background. Tisha B'Av is the 9th of the Hebrew month called Av, and on that day, both temples, the Jewish people had a temple in Jerusalem, which was the central spiritual gathering point, and it was destroyed on the 9th of Av, and then it was that was over 2,000 years ago, and then that first temple was destroyed, and then it was rebuilt 70 years later, and then that temple was destroyed, and it hasn't been rebuilt in over 2,000 years. So question is, first of all, what are we doing? Where most people on a kind of superficial level think we're mourning a building. And how am I supposed to feel bad about a building that I never saw? And even if I did, why would I feel bad about a building? So that's a mistake. We are not taking this time to grieve over a building, but actually the soul of the building. It says in our oral tradition, so to speak, that God says to our enemies, you destroyed a temple that was already destroyed. So it was essentially, it was this empty shell, and the soul of it was already gone. And so we destroyed the essence of it, and then the enemies took down the structure, but it was already gone in terms of what it really was about. And there's a very, I found it at first glance, and even a couple glances, a difficult piece from our sages that say that this day, Tisha B'Av, is an extraordinary day for us because if you know anything about the 5 books of Moses, the story called the spies, the Jewish people, before they entered into the land of Israel, they sent these spies to check out the land. And these spies came back, of 12 of them, and 10 of them just discouraged the people and said, let's not go there, whereby 2 of them encouraged them, but the 10 kind of won the favor of the people, and the people started to cry and mourn over the fact that they don't want to go to the land of Israel. So there's a disturbing piece in our old tradition that says that God says to the people, you cried for no reason, and so for generations I will give you a reason to cry. I didn't like what I heard. It sounds like some kind of vengeful father like Rav Dov Ber here, who tells his kids, oh, you didn't like that toy? Oh, you cried because you didn't get the bigger toy? I'm going to break all your toys. I mean, it sounds terrible, at first read. And I've contemplated what that piece means, and this is what I believe it means. I think what it means is that, so to speak, the sages are telling us, and they're describing it through the words of God, so to speak, is that one of the most important things to learn in life is what's worth crying over. And very often people think that they're depressed because they don't know how to be happy. If only I could be happy. And I actually don't think that's really true. I think we're depressed very often because we don't know how to be sad. And in order to get happy, we have to learn how to be sad and be sad over what's really worth being sad over. Now, what's the difference between depression and sadness? I believe that when people have a good reason to be sad, but they're in denial of it, then it kind of inside them piles up and it turns into depression. And depression means I've lost all motivation. I mean, a very depressed person isn't going to want to even get out of bed. A sad person is not demotivated. A sad person is very, very aware of and deeply saddened by a loss, and a loss that they very much want to, and through their sadness, yearn to fill. And so sadness is motivating, where depression is demotivating. And I once had a student, and she, at first glance, when I saw her, she had a toughness on her, and I couldn't figure out. She was really tough, hard like a rock. And I didn't know what it was about, but it's none of my business to pry, but I did anyways. No, I didn't. But about another 3 days into the course, she said, "Can I get some time with you?" So we sat in my office, and she said, "I want to tell you a story about myself." Sure. She said, "Well, when I was 24, 25 years old, my father died. I was very angry at God, and I decided that he's not going to get me down. And so from the funeral, I went straight to work, and I did not mourn." And I said, "Well, quite frankly, I can see that on you, that there's something you're holding on to that you never really, you never really processed, and you really need to mourn." The way one turns grief into good grief is when you acknowledge it, you embrace it, and you allow it to heal, because you have valid reasons to be sad. And I think so much of our society runs away from sadness, and that's why so much of society is depressed, because we're not allowing ourselves to cry over what's really worth crying over, and grieving and mourning over what we really need to grieve and mourn. Now, I lost my parents about 10 years ago. They passed away about 9 months from each other. And that was devastating. And I remember during the mourning period, Judaism has a 7-day mourning period, and then a little bit less of a mourning period of 30 days, and then less of a mourning period of a year or whatever. So it kind of gradually, but it directs us to mourn. And that's healthy, to mourn. And I remember one night when I was going to sleep during my mourning, I felt a deep sense of joy that I was sad, that I knew how to be sad, that I had a way to express it and acknowledge it and embrace it and feel it. Our sages say that only those that truly feel the sadness over the loss of the temple will merit to rejoice in its rebuilding. And I mean, that could be a long time. So I don't know if they were talking about physically, but I think spiritually they're saying that you can't really know what happiness is if you've never tasted sadness. It's kind of like you can't know what sweet is if you've never tasted sour, or if you were rich and your friends are rich and everybody you ever met in your life was rich, you wouldn't even know you're rich because you've never experienced poverty. You've never seen poverty. One of my students is an actor that passed away this year that you probably never heard of, a guy named Kirk Douglas. And I used to teach him, and he told me something interesting. His son is Michael Douglas. He said, "I gave my children everything, but one gift I couldn't give them, which is a gift my parents gave me, which is poverty. I couldn't give my children poverty, and therefore they don't really understand what it means to be rich." So this is a day to be sad. And I first want to just kind of contextualize that sadness is a good thing to know how to feel. And especially when I learned to be sad over what's really worth being sad over, and missing what's really, truly something to miss. And so I believe that that's what, so to speak, God was saying, that, you cried for no reason. I'll give you a reason to cry, meaning, now I'm not punishing you, but I'm helping you because, and I remember somebody once wrote me when my first book came out, and I have a chapter in there about happiness. He wrote me that he doesn't want to be happy. He wants to be whole. And I realized that that really is the Jewish approach. The Jewish approach is to be a whole person. And a whole person is a person that is able to embrace the spectrum of human emotion. Then I'm a rich human being. there's music that is actually melancholy and sad, and people in some way take pleasure in the pain of hearing this music. It emotes you. There's something very, in a weird way, joyous when we can cry over what's really worth crying over. But what is worth really crying over? And that's what I want to now talk about. And you can ask me questions at the end. But what is this a time to mourn about? So our sages tell us that in the first temple was destroyed because of three terrible wrongs that the Jewish people had done. One was murder. There was murder going on amongst us, terrible. There was sexual perversion, and there was idolatry. But we fixed that because the temple was rebuilt within 70 years. But the second temple was destroyed because of baseless hate. That has not been rebuilt, which means that we're still doing that. And we haven't fixed that. Our sages tell us that the generation that the temple has not been rebuilt in, they share the blame of it being destroyed. If it wasn't built, then in some way we keep destroying it, or keeping it in a destroyed place, so to speak. So what are these, wrongs? So it's all about the temple really is about feeling God's presence in the world. That's really what it's about. And where is the presence of God? Not in a building. The verse in the Torah says, build for me a tabernacle, which was the original structure that eventually became what's called the temple, and I will dwell in them. Meaning the Torah teaches us that God seeks to dwell within us. Now, what would it mean that God dwells in us? What would that feel like? How would I know if I am living the presence of God into the world? Well, one indication is that you are on this level of awareness, is you would feel really good about yourself. You would feel that you are inherently valuable. And that would be, so to speak, a symptom that you have become conscious of the presence of God within you. You would feel a profound sense that your life matters. Like, for instance, how do I know gravity is in my life? I've never seen gravity. Well, I know that gravity is in my life. Gravity is present in my life because there's a force that's pulling me down. And how do I know that God is in my life? I know that God is in my life when I feel a force pulling me up. When inside me, I have this deep sense of dissatisfaction that I could be more, that there's a kind of ought to be that I ought to be. And I deeply sense potential in me and a yearning to grow. That's a person that we would call God conscious, even if they say they don't believe in God. You have the symptoms of a God-aware person, a person who genuinely believes that we are the products of Big Bang and just an evolution of survival of the fittest. Why would I think I'm so valuable? Why would I yearn to live a more meaningful life? Why would I assume I have any purpose at all? So very often people say they believe in God and they don't have the symptoms of a true believer because they're not nice to people, they're not nice to themselves, they are criminal, and yet they say that they treat people as if they're evolved monkeys. And then there's people that say we're evolved monkeys, but they don't believe that. They really deeply down are not acting that belief out there. What their actions are saying is, I matter and you matter. So what it means is the presence of God is always within us. The real question is, are we conscious of that? And the indicators of that would be, first of all, what we think about ourselves and what we say to ourselves and how we behave. And what we would think about ourselves is that we are inherently valuable and we don't have to justify our existence. That's an amazing sense of self. Because a lot of people, I remember there was a girl at Israelite, our program, and she she said, "Can I talk to you?" So we sat in my office, and she broke down and started to cry. I said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "Because you're so nice to me." I said, "I apologize. I was hoping to be abusive. I apologize." I mean, what do you mean? You're crying because I'm nice to you? She said, "Yes, because nobody has been nice to me for no reason. And you have no reason to be nice to me. I've never done anything for you." I said, "You don't have to do something for me to be nice to you." And I realized, and she said, "Well, I don't deserve your kindness." You understand? That's a contradiction in terms. You don't deserve kindness. If you deserve something, that's justice. Kindness is a gift that I give you for no reason. I just did it. And very often people live with the sense that they're not worthy of love. And this sabotages their relationships because they deeply feel they're not worthy of love. You don't have to be worthy for love. Then it wouldn't be love. It would be business. If I'm worthy, then there's some transaction going on over here. And you probably recall, in the Scotland retreat, I shared a story how I was sitting with my wife and I asked her spontaneously one night, like, "Why do you love me?" And she said, I have no reason to love you. And I was really taken aback by that. And I said, "What do you mean you don't have a reason? You can't find one reason to love me?" She said, "Not only do I have no reason, you wouldn't want me to have a reason to love you." And I said, "Well, I think I would." And she said, "No, you wouldn't. Because if I had a reason to love you, it would be the reason I love and not you. And if that reason were no longer valid, what happens to my love? I love you even if you give me reasons to not love you. I still love you." I mean, she was on drugs that night, but I'm just joking. It was like that's real love. Real love is, I love you because you are inherently valuable. That's God consciousness. Because when people are dating and they're kind of seeing, well, what does he offer me and what do I offer him? That's business. And you know what happens in business? If I've got a deal with a company, but I can find another company that can deliver the product at a lower price with less hassle, I go to another company. That's why there's a lot of divorces, because they weren't marriages of love. They were business deals, And so God consciousness is a profound sense that I am inherently valuable, that I really matter, that even if scientifically I'm much less than 1/7 billionth of a speck of dust, I know from inside I'm not. I really, really matter. And God consciousness means that I know that about you too. And I will be kind to a stranger with absolutely no interest or expectation to be repaid. Because if I saw myself on the street, I would help myself. And so too, if I saw another part of me, which is every human being, because we're all connected through this one self called God, then, and so that's what's gone. So the first temple was destroyed because we violated the sacredness of relationship, pure relationship. Killing people is hating other people. Idolatry is violating our relationship and feeling of connection to God. If I felt really connected to a higher power, I wouldn't go running around, worshiping trees or the sun or the moon. And sexual perversion is a violation of myself. If I really, really valued myself, I wouldn't do that. Like a friend of mine was speaking to a group of young professionals and he asked them, "Tell me, how long would you need to know somebody before you would lend them your car?" So some people said, "I would never lend anybody my car." Some people said, "Well, if I knew him for a year." Some people said, "Well, if it was 3 months, maybe I would lend them my car." He said, okay, and how long do you think you need to know somebody before you get intimate with them in bed? Oh, that was a big challenge. Some people found themselves in bed with someone they met at a party that night. So you trust them with your car, but you wouldn't trust them with your car, but you trust them with your intimacy. You trust them with your body. What does it say about how you feel about yourself? What it says is you'd be better off being a car. It's like, how do we feel about ourselves? And so God consciousness, if a person has expectations that they should feel really significant, then you must be a believer. Because if you are really, really committed to thinking this is all one big accident, then you need to include yourself on the list. So the first temple was destroyed because we had lost the sense of God's presence in the world, within ourselves, within each other, and the presence that we all share with a higher power we call God. Okay, but somehow they fixed that and the temple was restored 70 years later. But then the temple was destroyed for something very odd, which is called baseless hate. Now, what is baseless hate? I mean, I don't think if anybody hates somebody, they always have a reason. They always have a reason. The question is it actually a reason or is it an excuse? Like anti-Semitism, if you compile the reasons why we were hated, they contradict each other. We hate them because they were poor. We hate them because they were rich. We hate them, and well, could you make up your mind why you hate us? I mean, that's what happened to me when I was a kid. I grew up in a completely non-Jewish neighborhood. The school I went to was public school. No, I was the only Jew. And I was beat up for killing Jesus. And I told them, I don't even know the kid. I never even played with him. But I got beat up for killing Jesus. And so on one hand, I was told that I'm a lazy kid because I would not come to school on the Jewish holidays. On the other hand, they told me that they hate me because I was so smart and I worked so hard in class. Well, could you make up your mind? Either I'm a hard worker or I'm lazy. And those were not the reasons, those were excuses. Because baseless hate means I hate you just because you're different. That's all. You're different. And it's on the level of kindergarten, because that happens in kindergarten. A new kid walks into the kindergarten and the kids are mean to the boy or girl just because he's different. I mean, you're not a threat to me. It's not like there are these natural resources that we're vying for that, I need this water and you're going to take it. It's not like you ever hurt me. You're just different. I hate people that are different. It's a very strange psychology why we would hate somebody different. And again, I think it comes back to very, very low self-esteem. That I feel threatened by anybody different than me. And that's crazy, but that's what happens. And it's going on in the world with Black Lives Matter. It's like people hate people that they don't even know. It's like crazy. They've got just such generalizations about large populations without any consideration that maybe you're wrong and maybe there's exceptions and maybe what you're saying about them is the exception and this is not the rule. But people are very quick to hate, and I believe it's because they hate themselves. I believe that when people deeply hate themselves, they unleash their hatred on others. And I think that's the problem, that I hate you because you're different, because you make me feel different. And I can't handle that because I'm afraid if I'm different, then I don't matter. So how do we fix this? We fix this by practicing baseless love. And baseless love means I love you for no reason. I'm not looking for a payoff. And you don't have to do something for me to do something for you. It's my joy to be kind. And if we were all pieces of a puzzle, then we wouldn't hate another piece that showed up that was different. We would love him. We need this guy to be different, because if you're like us, we can't complete the puzzle. So rather than hate each other for the differences, we should be celebrating our differences. I don't know if there's any tradition in the world that has a sacred text which records difference of opinions, arguments, called the Talmud. Now that's a book of love. Because a book of love is we don't have to agree to be we. That's a book of love. We have differences of opinion, but we're still one. And we still practice love and random acts of kindness towards each other. So what are we mourning? We're mourning the loss of love in the world. And I know it sounds like a Beatles song, but it is. It's like love is gone. That's another song. It's like, that's it. Because love is an emotion that is generated by an awareness of togetherness, of oneness. And that's the experience of God, because God is not some invisible guy in the sky. God is the shared soul of the universe. And we are all, if God were white light, we'd all be different colors in the spectrum of that white light. And so the very foundation of love is I'm not you, you're not me, and yet we're connected. If I'm you and you're me, then there's no love there. There's no relationship. If I'm me and you're you, but we're not connected, there can't be love. Love is this bizarre dynamic, how we're different and yet we're one. And that's gone. And with all the songs that we've been singing about love and all the movies that have been produced about love, it seems that we are failing miserably at love, which is really the foundation of that is what we would call the presence of God. And that's really what we are going to focus on, being sad on Thursday, Tisha B'Av, to really feel how much we're missing the presence of God. Because if we were conscious of the presence of God, then this place would be paradise. Heaven would be on earth. We would love each other, respect each other, be there for each other, and our lives would be holy. And what is a holy life? The definition of holiness is when you turn something into an end, not into a means. That's what's holy. God is not a means to an end. And you, so to speak, create an image of God, you're not a means to an end either. But when we treat each other like tools, we try to figure out how this person can help me get to that person, which can help me get to that person. Okay, that's business. It's not bad, but it's not holy. Holy is you're not a means to my end. You're an end unto yourself. And a holy moment is not a means to the next moment. I'm fully present in this moment. This moment is valuable, even if it doesn't lead to the next moment. It's like music. Every note in the music is beautiful, but it's not as if every note is there just to get to the last note, which was the point of it all. Every note is there because it's there. It's part of this comprehensive experience. So a person that has a holy life, which is what the teachings of Torah and the guidance of Torah enable us to do, is to turn our lives into holy lives. Whereby people, that's why when people get married, it's called Kedushin. It's like, I'm telling you that this is not business. I'm here for you, not because you'll be here for me. You're not a means to my end. You're not a tool for me. You're not an object. And so that's what's called the Beit HaMikdash. The Beit HaMikdash was a house of holiness, which was there to, guide us and to indicate for us that we want to bring God into the world. And to bring God into the world is synonymous with saying we want to bring into the world a consciousness of a shared self that we're all part of. And therefore, nobody's a means to anybody else. We're all together, we're all valuable, and we're all one. So I'd be happy to hear your questions.
First of all, Rabbi Aron, I just want to say, I just feel like it's been a year since we've been in each other's presence like this, but just to hear you speak and just the insight you have, I've been writing sticky notes as you go along, just like I kind of always do these things, just the things you've been saying.
Baruch Hashem.
No, it's so helpful to put into context, I think, how so many of us are feeling. And it brings back those memories of being in Scotland last year. And just to say, I know we were meant to be in Spain right now. We're going to be in Spain. Please God, looking forward though. I know as soon as we can with Corona over, we'll get that chance to get a retreat going. So all of you watching, I know even those who didn't get a chance to come to Scotland will have that chance, please God, soon with Rabbi Aron to go away together. But maybe now's a chance. I know Rabbi Aron's very kindly allowed, come on. I said originally, it's not for so long, but he's very kindly stayed. Now, if got any questions on something Rabbi Aron said, there's a great chance. Don't miss the opportunity. Anybody got something to add or to ask?
Right. Well, as I always mention, always the first question is the most difficult. So we'll just go to the second question.
Exactly. David Webb often has questions. So yeah, David Webb, you wanted to say something? David, show us your beautiful face.
1 second, I'm coming.
So,
you have hidden your face like God.
So, I guess the question is, like they say that Tisha B'Av, the most negative day, but also the day that Mashiach will be born.
Yes.
Now, I remember on the retreat, or I remember from one of your videos, or from your book, I don't remember where, but the idea that to build a temple is to build that temple within inside of ourselves.
Right.
So how can we begin to build the temple inside of ourselves, and to build the consciousness of Mashiach inside of ourselves right now?
So we are repair people because we're very aware of things that are broken. That's why it's hard to be happy, because our minds are very much occupied with what's broken. What's not broken, our minds feel, okay, we don't have to take care of that. But we are basically repair people. We are fix-it people, and we're looking for what's broken to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good. And so everybody, I think, if I were to ask you to think of something broken in your life that could be easily fixed, I think we could all come up with something. And I think that's the beginning, that I become, repair-minded, because, for instance, because whatever's broken is either broken about me or broken about my relationship with other people. So it's important to start a journey with a step. And steps aren't really very far. There's small steps. I mean, and what's just think of a step that you could do to bring a little more love into the world. And it could be love towards yourself. Maybe there's an area that you're not being kind to yourself. Maybe it's love to a family member. Maybe it's love to a friend. Maybe it's love to a stranger. But what can we do to just do one act of love? Like I would encourage you all at the end of this talk to write a kind note. It could be short, to someone that will be surprised to get that note. And realize what you did is huge, you know? So how often do you get a kind note saying, you know what, I was just thinking about you, and I don't know if I thanked you enough for X. I just want to take spontaneously this moment to acknowledge that, and you mean so much to me. Do you know what you just did? Do you know how much you've just healed? So I think we think of fixing the world, but the only way we're going to fix the world is if we fix whatever we can fix, that, and start with the easy tasks. And so that would be my challenge to each and every one of you, that tonight, write one person that you would be somewhat surprised to hear from you. I mean, it'd be great to also somebody that wouldn't be surprised to hear from you. But I think that would be a nice place to start. Somebody that would just get a kind note. And then we just brought more of God's presence into the world. Because again, if there's love in the world, then that's what we call more presence of God in the world.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Right. So that's why I would suggest Rabbi Dov would take his kids out of the closet as an actor. Actually, don't. Send them a note. I really love you in a closet.
She's listening. She's been listening. Yeah, sorry, wave. Just wave. Don't be scared. There you go.
Hi.
She's been listening, Rich. We listened to you.
Oh, great. Okay.
It's sweet.
Any other questions or comments?
I had a comment.
Yeah, great to see you.
Nice to see you
Good to see
too.
all of you. I tell you, I was speaking to my wife the other day, and we were sharing about our memories of Scotland, and we just loved it. We loved having the time together with all of you. It was real, you know, and that doesn't happen all the time. So let's cherish that, and let's share that and keep that alive. Sorry, Patrice, go ahead.
No, basically, so about one point that really stuck out to me was when you said about people have to learn how to be sad when it's the right time to mourn, because not everyone can be happy all the time. That's not really the part of the human experience. So going back with my history in psychology, when I was a younger man and naive, I thought that I'd have to work hard and get through all this struggle to get to a point of perfection where everything in my life was perfect, and I just have to push a bit more and struggle a bit more, and then I get to this pinnacle. And as I get older, I realize that that's not life. There is no pure moment of initial bliss, because again, the human brain, as you said, doesn't really work like that. It goes, okay, we've solved this problem, what is the next one? And someone told me something. I don't fully agree, but I understand the concept. Someone said that life is just a series of unfortunate events with fortune sprinkled on the top.
Right.
So I think that I don't claim to be religious, but I do Tisha B'Av for the last 3 years, and I'm going to do it when it starts this year, of course. And I think that happiness and sadness are synonymous with each other. They're like a sort of a balance to each other, because you can't have one without the other, truly.
Beautiful.
So that's really why that's how I interpret Tisha B'Av, because in struggle, I think we find meaning. I think someone's purpose is to find, there's a philosopher, Nietzsche, he said that life's a struggle, but you have to find your reason why. Like, he who can stand almost any why can find any how.
Exactly.
So I really love that talk. It kind of like resonated with me that there is no ideological state. Life will present one challenge, you get over that, and there'll be something else. It's just a part of just how the world goes, how life goes. And that's
Right.
just, I really enjoyed the talk. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I would add to that if the ideal is to live with the presence of God, which practically is practicing love, then realize that the highest opportunities for love is loving those who are not perfect. Because if I have every reason to love you, so is love really being challenged? Am I really maxing out the possibility of love? But when you love somebody, even though they're not perfect, then that's really love, you know. So I see that Rav Dov is looking at his children. So, but that's really love. Love is that, and the same thing with ourselves, practicing self-love. The hard thing about practicing self-love is we know too much about ourselves. We remember all the stupid things we've done. You know, we don't know that much about each other, but we certainly know more about everything about ourselves. And to practice self-love is like, I love you even though you've given me reasons not to.
Yeah, I understand. I'm gonna have to go, but I want to say once again, thank you very much.
I love you
It's
even
nice to
if
see
you
all
don't.
of you guys, the ones that went to Scotland. Thank you. I hope to see you soon again. But I wish you all the best. And if there's another trip, I'm definitely going to head off. I'm definitely going to go. Hi, Mom. And
Is that your mom?
that's my mom, yeah.
Hey,
That's
Mom. You got an amazing son there.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's a shining guy.
Yes,
He's a shining, brilliant guy.
Oh, thank you so much. But he likes to be with you all and you're part of your company.
Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, guys.
Good to see you, Patrice.
See you guys next time.
See you soon. Please God. Please God. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shalom, shalom.
So sweet. Lovely. Beautiful. I mean, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know that you're being very kind here, but maybe I don't know if anyone else has got some questions they want us. Maybe can email you. I'm going to put this video up on the WhatsApp group. You can catch up. Do catch up,
guys.
If anyone has any more questions, please, unless anyone else has got a burning question, and Rabbi Aron is okay with it. Doesn't look like that's the case. Freddie, yes, Freddie, go on. You're gonna.
Hey, Freddie.
No, sorry. I'd love to have some incredibly brilliant, insightful question, but I think you've covered most of it. Thank you.
Okay, Freddie. Well, good to see you and hear your voice. All the best, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll put the video up and let's all stay in touch. And really, I mean this wholeheartedly. I can't wait to see you and all of us together again very, very soon. Please God, in your neck of the woods, not in ours, in Kodesh. But please God, we'll see each other soon.
Amen.
I'm looking forward to many more retreats. We'll all go together, please God.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. See you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you.